Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zoltan Desalegn with the news. Thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed visited a soybean cluster farm in Tegede Warada, central Gondar zone of the state of Amhara. During the visit, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was accompanied by Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen and other senior government officials. The Prime Minister underscored that extensive efforts are being made in the Amhara state to produce soybeans. Writing on his social media platform, Prime Minister Abiy said the visit to the soybean cluster farm, which covers around 38,000 hectares in Tegede Warada, central Gondar zone, was illustrative of successes made. It indicates that the commendable results we have achieved in wheat production will be replicated in other products as well, the Prime Minister added. The federal government disclosed that it has assumed immediate control of all airports, other federal facilities and installations in the Restiv region due to grave violations of Ethiopia's airspace by hostile foreign actors supporting the TPLF. A statement issued the previous day by the government Communication Service said the government of Ethiopia is thus forced to take defensive measures to safeguard the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country. It also stated that the measure will enable the government to expedite humanitarian aid to people in need. While pursuing these objectives, the government of Ethiopia is committed to the peaceful resolution of the conflict through the AU-led peace talks, according to the statement. Furthermore, the government of Ethiopia shall work closely with humanitarian operators to ensure humanitarian access in areas under its control and to ensure the safety of humanitarian workers. It urged the civilian population in Tigray to distance themselves from TPLF's military assets. The government deeply regrets any harm that might have been inflicted upon civilians, including humanitarian personnel, and will investigate such incidents to establish facts and provide redress when and if such unintended harm occurs. Finally, the government reiterated its inherent constitutional duty and commitment to protect our citizens in Tigray. The statement recalled that the current round of conflict in northern Ethiopia is triggered by the full-fledged attack the TPLF launched on August 24th, 2022. Breaking the humanitarian truce that the government of Ethiopia declared in March 2022. Furthermore, the TPLF announced to the group of special envoys and Addis Ababa-based diplomats its intentions to launch an offensive. In a letter addressed to several international personalities, the TPLF also reiterated this intention. The TPLF is thus solely responsible for the current situation. If given the time and space, it will do this again, as exhibited in its latest communication. President Sahle-Work Zewde said the national flag of Ethiopia is a manifestation of sovereignty, diversity, and the national integrity of the country. Members of the parliament and senior government officials have observed the 15th National Flag Day in Addis Ababa. Habtam Ashagri has the following account.
Members of the House of People's Representatives and other senior government officials observed the 15th National Flag Day timid. Our flag is the manifestation of our diversity and pillar of our sovereignty. Apart from observing the National Flag Day, Speaker of House of People's Representatives Taggese Chafo said Fezei Fetisan needed to control the undue domestic and foreign pressure against Ethiopia.
በሀገራችን ታሪክ ህዝባችን The people of Ethiopia have been fighting to restore the sovereignty and integrity of the country now and then. When we observe the National Flag Day, we have to recognize the past deeds and translate the nation by elevating the ongoing challenges. We have to work hard to develop the concept of nationalism and proud on Ethiopia. This is the day we rehabilitate our words to transform the nation into hate.
Speaking on the occasion, President of Ethiopia Sahle-Work Zawde for her part said, national flag is a manifestation of sovereignty and national integrity of a country.
ሰንደቅ ዓላማ ዜጎች ለሀገራቸው ያላቸውን ፍቅርና ክብር
National flag is an instrument and national emblem of a society to show their love and dignity to their respective country. Thus, every citizen is responsible to show dignity to the nation's flag. The nation's flag is a manifestation of freedom, patriotism, and national integrity of all Ethiopians.
ሰንደቅ ዓላማ የነጻነት የአርበኝነት ያልበገሬነት ታሪካችን አርማ ነው።
According to the president, the national flag is not interchangeable due to a regime change between ruling parties, and it is the national symbol which is transcending between generations to generations.
አንድ ሀገር የሚለይበት የሚታወቅበት አንድ ሰንደቅ ዓላማ ብቻ ነው።
A nation is only identified and represented by one national flag. No more, no less. Every country is coming together under one national flag. When regimes have interchanged in our country, the color of the national flag never changed except the emblem on the flag. The color of the national flag is green, yellow, and red. There is no interchangeable national flag when ruling parties are interchanging.
በሰንደቅ ዓላማው መሃል ያለው አርማ እንጂ
Minister of Planning and Development disclosed that there has been a significant increase in tax revenue, export, and remittance during the past 3 months. The minister made the disclosure during a review of the macroeconomic performance of the first quarter of the fiscal year in Gondar town in the presence of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and other members of the Council of Ministers. Export fetched some $976 million during the stated period. Johannes van Town has the rest of the story. Take a look.
A performance evaluation of main macroeconomic and ministerial offices' first quarter plans of 2015 Ethiopian budget year is conducted in Gondar city in the presence of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Presenting the quarterly performance report, Minister of Planning and Development Fitsum Assefa underscored that foreign exchange flow shot up by 14% during the stated period. Agriculture contributed to some 426 million of the total 976 million USD earned from the export trade.
የ2015 የመጀመሪያው ሩብ ዓመት ጠቅላላ ገቢ አፈጻጸም ከአምናው ተመሳሳይ ወቅት አንፃር የ32.94
The total revenue obtained during the first quarter of the 2015 Ethiopian fiscal year showed a growth of 32.94% compared against that of the revenue during the same period last year. A glance at the domestic tax revenue shows a rise of 32.52%. Although revenue rose dramatically, GDP performance leaves much to be desired. One way of certifying this is by looking at the share of the GDP, while another is expanding our tax base and improve our tax revenue by reforming and improving our administration.
Strict supervision on contraband and stockpiling of products, the minister said, is an effective remedy for scaling up export trade to a much better degree. There has been an increase of 33% in relation to service cost and business income.
ሌላው የወጪ ንግድ ነው በአፈጻጸም ያየነው በ2014ም እንደምታስታውሱት በጣም ጥሩ
Export trade is another area where progress has been made. Ethiopia's export earnings for the previous year registered remarkable increase. But during the last 4 years alone, the nation earned an additional of $1.4 billion from external trade. That is an average increase of $350 million every year. Also, during the period under review, we have managed to net $976 million. A deeper and sector-wise glance reveals that coffee fetched $426 million, which is an increase of $98 million compared to the revenue from the same period last year. Although revenue from oilseeds dropped a little bit, revenue from horticulture soared.
አበባ ምርት በከፍተኛ ሁኔታ ጨምሯል ወደ 40 ሚሊዮን የሚጠጋ ጭማሪ ያሳያል።
The minister pointed out that foreign direct investment has grown at a reasonable rate during the quarter, further stating that the finance remains one of the sectors that have achieved the highest growth. According to Asafa, remittance income is one of the areas where growth has been registered. The evaluation indicated that revenue has risen by 8.6% during the stated period. The nation has collected 93.1 billion birr from tax and non-tax revenues, out of which 51% billion birr was collected from income tax.
Former Ethiopian Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn said building self-reliance is crucial to make the motto of African solutions to African problems. During a question and answer session at the conclusion of the Tana High-Level Forum in Bahir Dar, Hailemariam Desalegn unequivocally pointed out that Africans are capable of finding remedies to the ills facing the continent. Goshu Meliso has the details.
The 10th High-Level Tana Forum deliberated on Africa's peace and security issues. Various ideas have been apparently entertained and reflected on the event. Former Ethiopian Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn said Africa needs to build self-reliance activities to resolve African peace and security issues by Africans. He also underscored that it is important to work in determination to free from a dependency in financing EU peace and security entities.
We have to work inside out. Not blame anyone. We have enough money, enough resource in Africa. So we have to fund ourselves. We have to decolonize our mind. Ownership is the main message we have to take from this Tana Forum.
UN Country Director in East Africa, Hannah Tete, and US Special Envoy in the Horn of Africa echoed their ideas on the panel discussion. Participants of the forum challenged that the interference of Westerners are exacerbating African problems.
That Africa should tell Europe, America, Russia, China, please leave us alone. Let us resolve our problems. Question number one.
Are you really engaging with international development and cooperation? Is really human rights true? Does human rights in America even matter for the black?
US Special Envoy in the Horn of Africa, Mike Hammer, said US is interested to continue as a good partner for Africa to resolve Africa's security issues.
Take responsibility. It is your country. You need to do the work that is required. Is that we recognize that we need to do better for ourselves, for our American citizens, and that we are not yet a perfect union. We may never be.
Former Ethiopian Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn, for his part, said US's partnership is not based on Africa's interest.
Ambassador Mike has said, yes, there is no other country than the United States in supporting Africa. But to me, let me ask you let me give you a suggestion. My country, Ethiopia, has been getting food aid and grains from United States for the last 40 years. And the money invested in these grains is equivalent to hundreds of billions of dollars. I would have preferred if you put that money to transform our own agriculture in Africa. We should make our house in order.
UN Country Director in East Africa, Hannah Tete, for her part, said African leaders should discharge their responsibilities to meet the growing demand of development through involving youths.
Youth element of our population, the aspirational nature of youth, and the impatience, as we know, of youth. It's important for us to focus on being able to provide the kind of, if you like, both economic, social, and cultural interventions that allow them to be proud of themselves as Africans and can see that their leaders are focusing on achieving things. It means that the architecture that we have, the peace and security architecture that we have, that is quite well designed. should be used for solving problems, but should not be used for protecting regimes.
Focusing the security issues, the 10th and high-level forum concluded Sunday, indicating African solutions to African problems.
Ethiopia's ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations, Taye Atskasillase, met with International Committee of the Red Cross Regional Director for Africa, Patrick Youssef. The two discussed ICRC's holistic approach to the provision of services in Ethiopia in the light of the current situation in the country. Ambassador Atskasillase expressed Ethiopia's continued commitment to facilitate humanitarian assistance and explore ways to enhance services as peace process advances. For over 20 years, Indian companies have flocked to Ethiopia, making it an investment destination. These companies are working aggressively to bolster long existing trade ties between the two nations, according to the Indian ambassador to Ethiopia, Robert Shedkington. Talking to ETV English, the ambassador pointed out that his government is keen to recommit to enhance commercial relations with the Horn of Africa nation, besides widening the scope of scholarship opportunities for Ethiopian students. Kasan Jani brings us up to speed.
Indian investment has created various job opportunities for Ethiopians during the past 2 decades. The companies have managed to become one of the top 3 foreign investors in Ethiopia, with the new Indian multinationals making their presence felt in the country.
In the last 20 years, lots of private Indian investors have come to Ethiopia, and today there are 650 Indian companies registered with the Ethiopian Investment Commission. And cumulatively, according to the estimates of EIC, Indian investments are worth about $5 billion, of which we expect $3 billion are on the ground. And all Indian factories combined have given employment to 75 Ethiopian nationals. So that is why our business relations are very visible.
The ambassador also reaffirmed that the government of India will expand the current scholarship opportunities for Ethiopian students by way of helping scale up the education sector.
The next important aspect would be education. During imperial times, there were tens of thousands of Indian teachers, mostly from the state of Gujarat, who came and taught in secondary schools in Ethiopia. So invariably, people from the older generation would recall their Indian science or mathematics teachers. Yes, school teachers have left. Today, we have about 1,200 to 1,500 Indian faculty in Ethiopian public universities. So education is important, and as you yourself know, that since you have studied in India, you would agree that Ethiopian students form one of the largest group of students from Africa studying in India.
India remains committed to assisting the development endeavors of African nations.
India has always stood for the developing South. We have always looked at our sisters and brothers in Africa, in Asia, and in the Caribbean as our own.
Indian companies have cast their eyes on such sectors as agriculture, floriculture, engineering, plastics, manufacturing, cotton and textiles, among others.
Ethiopia's extraordinary and plenipotentiary ambassador to the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Jamal Bakr, visited flood victims in Sindh province's Tent City district and provided basic necessities like food, medicine, shelter, and non-food items to over 8,000 people there. The ambassador expressed his sadness and pain at the thought that Pakistan endured during the disaster. Ambassador Bakr urged the international community to step up support for flood victims after recognizing that Pakistan cannot handle the scenarios caused by flooding on its own. On the other hand, the ambassador had a fruitful conversation with the management of Tent City elders and religious figures that enabled him to comprehend the situation there and the alarming circumstances that require the attention of the entire international community. The ambassador, along with other officials, distributed basic foods, medicine, shelter, water, biscuits, and toys to the children. Fishermen fear the worst from new gas terminal in Senegal. A new offshore gas terminal located in the Atlantic Ocean about 10 kilometers off St. Louis is beginning to upset fishermen who are lamenting the loss of an area rich in fish. Haptama Shagri once again has more from African News.
A new danger may be looming on the horizon. At least that's what Senegalese fishermen fear. The new offshore gas terminal visible through the morning mist cloaking the Atlantic Ocean, where Senegalese meets Mauritania, is the threat. The launch of gas production is expected to start next year. As it draws closer, the Secretary General of the Fishing Union braces for the worst, meaning the end of any fishing activity in the area.
Cohabitation is impossible. Once gas extraction begins, it will mean death for St. Louis's fishing sector. Because St. Louis is the capital of fishing, if you take into account the number of boats in St. Louis, the types of fishing found in St. Louis, they exist nowhere else. But the fishing area is very small. It is practically stuck between the mouth of the river and the border with Mauritania, where there are coast guards who've already killed 19 fishermen.
Lately, seafarers have seen their catch dwindle. The authorities stepped up their control over the offshore platform, and a security perimeter has been set up, the great displeasure of fishermen, who said the area is precisely where most fish is found. The gas project has also drawn criticism from environmental groups.
No one can deny that resource exploitation has and will continue to have impacts on our environment. There will also be social impacts, and when you see the communities that live next to where the resources will be exploited, especially here in the fishing village of Gendar in St. Louis, we feel people are concerned. We see the discrepancy between the billions that we are told will come from the extraction of offshore gas and the poverty that you can see around you.
Senegalese gas discoveries account for 0.5% of world reserves, but the country's energy and oil minister said they were important enough to radically change the economy and industrial fabric of the nation.
You're watching Addis News Hour, and let's now take a recap of the top stories once again. Federal government assumes immediate control of all airports and federal facilities in Tigray. And Africans express resolve to put an end to foreign interference. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zoltan Desalegn, and have a great day ahead.